I think Wednesday's episode of The Young and the Restless could bring some pretty intense confrontations, especially with Sharon Newman finally coming face to face with Matt Clark. From my perspective, Matt may be hoping for forgiveness, but I'm not sure Sharon is anywhere near ready to give it to him. The episode should also put Victor and Nikki Newman in strategy mode as they continue worrying about Nick Newman. Even though Nick seems to be making progress in rehab, I think Victor will feel like simply standing back and hoping for the best isn't enough. He and Nikki may discuss different ways they can support their son through this difficult period. At the same time, Nikki could remind Victor that there's only so much they can do. In the end, Nick has to make the decision to change his life and put in the work himself. I think that could be an important point because Victor can protect his family from a lot of things, but he can't make Nick recover. Nikki may also have another concern on her mind: Adam Newman's growing interest in Christian Newman. Nick asked Adam to look after Christian, but I can understand why Nikki might worry that Adam could start seeing himself as more than just a supportive uncle. To me, there could be a real question about whether Adam is slowly moving into Nick's territory as Christian's father. Victor may assure Nikki that he'll keep a close eye on the situation. I think he'll make sure Adam understands that helping Christian is one thing, but overstepping Nick's role as his father is something else entirely. Meanwhile, Kyle Abbott could find himself trying to contain the fallout from Billy Abbott's pursuit of Chancellor. If Billy's plans turn into a very public battle, I think Kyle will be especially concerned about what it could do to Jabot and the Abbott family's reputation. Kyle may realize that this isn't simply a business dispute anymore. There's a family legacy at stake, and I was wondering whether he'll try to find a way to limit the damage before Billy's battle becomes completely destructive. Then we get to what could be one of the biggest confrontations of the episode. At Crimson Lights, Sharon will reportedly come face to face with Matt Clark, and I don't think this meeting is going to go the way Matt wants. He may ask Sharon to forgive him for his past mistakes, but after everything Nick has been going through, I can't see Sharon calmly accepting his apology. In fact, I think Sharon could completely unload on Matt. From Sharon's perspective, Matt is connected to some of the darkest experiences in her life, and now Nick is struggling with addiction. It would make sense for Sharon to blame Matt for at least part of the path Nick ended up taking. Whether that blame is completely fair or not, I think Sharon will be speaking from a place of anger, fear, and frustration. And honestly, I'm not sure Sharon could simply forget what Matt did to her in the past either. Forgiveness might sound easy when someone is standing in front of you asking for it, but the damage he caused isn't something Sharon can erase overnight. So I'm expecting Matt to leave this encounter feeling frustrated and rejected rather than forgiven. The bigger question for me is what Matt's next move will be. The spoilers suggest that some bad news could be coming his way, and I'm wondering if this failed attempt at reconciliation will make things even worse. I could be wrong, but I think Sharon's anger toward Matt may be only the beginning. Wednesday's episode could set up another round of trouble for several Genoa City families, with Nick's recovery, Adam's intentions, Billy's business battle, and Matt's return all creating new problems at the same time. When I look at Nick Newman's current situation on The Young and the Restless, I think he may finally be reaching a turning point. After everything that has happened with his addiction, Nick appears ready to make another bold decision, one that could determine what the next chapter of his life looks like. Victor Newman and Nikki Newman may soon have a chance to weigh in, and I'm expecting their reaction to be complicated. They've watched Nick make some painful mistakes, but I also think they can see that he's genuinely trying to regain control of his life. Nick certainly made the right decision when he called Sharon Newman and asked her to take him back to rehab after his horrible ordeal involving Marie Kirkland. Looking back, I think leaving the clinic for Victor and Nikki's vow renewal was a mistake. His recovery was still too fragile, and honestly, Nick probably should have stayed focused on getting better, rather than stepping back into family drama. But what's done is done. Nick eventually hit another low point, and that may have been the wake-up call he needed. Now, I think he could be more serious than ever about staying on the right path. That's exactly why Victor and Nikki may have some concerns when Nick apparently decides to leave rehab again. An upcoming scene teased in an Access Hollywood interview with Braden shows Victor, Nikki, and Nick together at the ranch. Victor can be heard asking Nick how the clinic felt about him leaving, and to me, that question is a major clue about what's coming. I don't think this will necessarily be another reckless decision on Nick's part. This time, the circumstances could be completely different. Nick may not be sneaking away from rehab or pretending everything is fine. Instead, I think he could be leaving because he genuinely believes he's ready to return to his normal life, and perhaps his doctors agree. Victor and Nikki may still worry that Nick is leaving too soon, especially after everything that happened before. But Nick could reassure them that his doctors have signed off on the decision and that he understands recovery doesn't magically end the moment he walks out of a clinic. I was wondering if Nick might even admit that keeping his inner demons under control will be something he has to work on every single day. If that happens, it would show a much more realistic understanding of what he's facing. And there's another major motivation for Nick, Christian Newman. I think being separated from Christian for longer than necessary could be one of the biggest reasons Nick wants to get his life back on track. He may be determined to prove that he can be present for his son while continuing to do the work required to stay sober. Of course, I'm not convinced the addiction storyline is completely finished yet. There's still some apparent drug dealer drama ahead based on behind-the-scenes information, so I wouldn't be surprised if Nick faces another test before this chapter truly ends. The question is whether he can handle that pressure without falling back into the same destructive cycle. Personally, I think many Y&R fans are ready to see Nick move beyond this storyline and into something fresh. His recovery has given the character some heavy material to work through, but I'd like to see the show eventually turn that growth into a new beginning, rather than another setback. Maybe this rehab exit really will be different. Maybe Nick is finally ready to take responsibility for his future, rebuild his relationship with Christian, and prove to Victor and Nikki that he can stand on his own again. I could be wrong, of course, but to me, this feels less like Nick simply walking away from rehab and more like the beginning of a new phase in his life. And if that's where the story is headed, I think Nick's next move could open the door to some very interesting storylines on The Young and the Restless. Braden has once again made his position very clear when it comes to his future on The Young and the Restless. The subject of retirement seems to come up often whenever Braden talks about his long career. And honestly, I was wondering if we might eventually hear him say that it was time to step away from Genoa City. But his latest answer put that idea to rest pretty quickly. During a recent conversation with Access Hollywood, Braden discussed his granddaughter accompanying him as his Daytime Emmys date, as well as his remarkable career on The Young and the Restless. At 85, he remains one of the most important figures on the show, with Victor Newman still playing a major role in the drama. Naturally, the retirement question came up. Could Braden really be thinking about taking his final bow as Victor and leaving the soap world behind? Apparently not. When asked whether he had any plans to retire, Braden gave an emphatic response. No, hell no. And to me, that says everything fans need to know. Braden clearly still enjoys playing Victor, and as long as he continues to have the desire and energy to do it, I think viewers can expect Victor Newman to remain a major force in Genoa City. Of course, the bigger question now is, what kind of material awaits him? With Jamie Giddens and Dan O'Connor replacing Josh Griffith as the new writing team, The Young and the Restless is entering another creative chapter. I'm especially curious to see how they handle Victor because there are so many directions the character could take. Victor recently repaired his marriage to Nikki Newman, and I have to admit, I wouldn't mind seeing that relationship get a little breathing room. At this point, I think Victor and Nikki have proven their love for each other countless times. Maybe they don't need to keep going through the same cycle of breaking up, fighting, reuniting, and repeating it all over again. Instead, I'd love to see Victor facing some different challenges. There's always his family, Newman Enterprises, corporate enemies, old grudges, and those inevitable revenge schemes. If the new writers really want to shake things up, Victor could easily become involved in a storyline that puts his entire empire or family legacy at risk. And if Braden truly has no intention of retiring, then the writers have plenty of time to explore those possibilities. I could be wrong, but I think keeping Victor active in the story is one of the best ways to take advantage of Braden's continued enthusiasm for the role. The character doesn't always need to be at the center of a romantic crisis. Sometimes the most interesting Victor stories come from his battles with his children, his business rivals, or anyone foolish enough to challenge the Newman family. So now I'm wondering what comes next. Will the new writing team give Victor a major power struggle? Could a family betrayal force him into another revenge mission? Or perhaps someone will finally find a way to threaten the Newman Empire in a way Victor never expected. Whatever happens, one thing seems clear. Eric Braden isn't ready to say goodbye to Victor Newman just yet. And honestly, for longtime The Young and the Restless fans, that may be very good news. With new writers in charge, some major surprises and shakeups could be ahead in Genoa City. I'll be watching closely to see whether Victor becomes one of the biggest players in whatever comes next. Tuesday, August 18th, 2026, brings some interesting shifts in Genoa City, especially with Cain preparing for a bigger fight against Billy, Danny making a major commitment to staying in town, and Victoria finding an unexpected connection with Kyle. After Ashley sided with Billy, believing Chancellor was John's gift to him, the Chancellor situation continues to get more complicated. Danny makes a major announcement. Lauren joins Michael, and at first, they are both confused about why they have been summoned. Michael, of course, immediately sees an opportunity to enjoy some time alone with his wife. That plan is interrupted when Cricket walks in, covering her eyes. She was summoned by her husband as well, and that can only mean Danny has something planned. Danny appears with an announcement, but before revealing it, he performs his latest song for everyone. The song has a lot of emotional history behind it. He explains that he originally wrote it after he and Christine broke up, but now he feels he can give the song a completely different ending. I thought that was a nice way to connect Danny's past with where he is now. Instead of being trapped by an old heartbreak, he is finally ready to rewrite the story. Lauren jokingly points out that Michael has never written songs for her. Naturally, Michael responds by singing her a legal brief, which is exactly the kind of ridiculous but fun moment I would expect from these two. Christine eventually reminds Danny that he actually has news to share. Danny reveals that he has purchased half of the club. This is much more than a business investment. Danny explains that buying into the club is part of his way of proving that he genuinely intends to remain in Genoa City for the long term. He still plans to write and record music, but he now sees Genoa City as home. Christine is thrilled by the decision. They also talk about Daniel and how good it could be for him to have a parent nearby who isn't going to create more chaos in his life. I think Danny staying could eventually become very important for Daniel, especially with so much instability surrounding the family. The conversation turns to Phyllis and how painful it has been for her to be separated from her children. Danny hopes Phyllis and the kids can eventually find a way to move forward. Then things become a little more fun when they discuss the possibility of an 80s night at the club. Danny asks Lauren to perform with him, which sounds like it could be a great event. Once Danny and Christine are alone, Danny reveals that the other half of the club is hers. Christine responds by making it clear that while the club may be half hers, Danny is all hers. The two decide to explore the place together, with Christine suggesting they look for a hidden VIP area. Cain prepares to fight Billy. Meanwhile, Ashley and Tracy leave Cain and Jack alone so the two men can discuss the growing Chancellor mess. Jack explains that his sisters are currently trying to deal with Billy, and he hopes they can convince him to calm down and settle the situation. Before Billy arrives, Jack encourages Cain to put everything on the table and try to resolve the matter peacefully. I was wondering how long that peaceful approach was going to last, because Cain clearly isn't interested in simply walking away. Cain doesn't believe Billy is going to suddenly become calm and reasonable. In his view, Billy is already prepared to burn everything down if that's what it takes to keep Chancellor. The two men argue over the legal implications of the agreement and who knew about it. Jack admits that there are still plenty of unanswered questions. Cain then challenges Jack over whether he is actually willing to tolerate Billy's obsession with Chancellor. Jack points out that he was the one who rehired Billy at the company. Cain insists he believed he was simply giving Billy another chance. Jack warns him not to turn the entire situation into something personal. But Cain is convinced the current arrangement won't survive in court. More importantly, he feels Lily doesn't deserve to be dragged through all of this. Cain warns that he may have to make things ugly if that's what it takes to force Billy to back off. That is where the conversation becomes much more personal. Jack asks Cain about his relationship with Lily, and Cain makes it clear that he isn't going to allow anyone to interfere with it. I think that may be the real driving force behind Cain's actions. This isn't just about Chancellor anymore. Cain sees Billy as a threat to his future with Lily, and that makes compromise much harder. Jack admits that he wants the whole mess to disappear too, but getting Billy to cooperate is another story. From Jack's perspective, though, there may still be a winning hand sitting on the table. Then Billy walks in. He tells Cain that he should back down from the fight. Billy explains that he ran into his sisters and now he's there to deal with the situation himself. And considering everything that has happened so far, I don't think this confrontation is going to end peacefully. Cain appears ready to build whatever alliance he needs to stop Billy, while Billy seems equally determined to hold on to Chancellor. With Jack caught between the two sides and Lily becoming increasingly important to Cain's motivations, this could turn into a much bigger battle than either man originally expected. To me, the most interesting part is that the Chancellor conflict is no longer just a corporate dispute. It is becoming personal for everyone involved. And once that happens in Genoa City, things rarely stay simple for long. I think Billy is making his position very clear. He believes Chancellor belongs to the Abbots, and he seems convinced he can prove it. Cain, however, points out that Amanda and the legal team believe his case is flimsy at best. So, from Cain's perspective, Billy may be far more confident than the evidence actually allows. The two men continue arguing over who is really being cheated here. Billy says he's willing to throw Cain a bone if he helps with the transfer of power, even offering him a position in R&D. But Cain isn't interested in being bought off. He warns Billy that if he goes after Lily, he'll have to go through him. To me, that's also a warning for Billy to stop acting like he has some kind of god complex. Billy insists that he doesn't want the entire world. He wants Chancellor. When Jack questions why this matters so much to him, Billy fires back that Jack has never really been on his side. Frustrated, Billy storms out. Jack then makes it clear to Cain that he wants no part of the battle. He doesn't want to get dragged into another Abbott family war. Cain asks him to help rein Billy in, but Jack refuses. However, Jack does draw one very important line. If Cain and Lily tarnish his father's name and reputation, they'll have to deal with him. So while Jack wants to stay out of the fight, it sounds like he won't remain neutral if his family's legacy is threatened. Meanwhile, Kyle checks in on Victoria and offers to listen as a friend. Victoria accepts, admitting that, "You'll do." I think there's something interesting about this scene because, despite all the complicated Abbott family history, Kyle is genuinely trying to be there for her. They sit together awkwardly while Victoria thanks him for checking in. Kyle acknowledges that they may argue about their fathers, but he believes they can still care about each other. Victoria is clearly struggling because she desperately wants to see her brother, but she knows he needs to concentrate on his treatment. Looking back, she even wonders if inviting him to the vow renewal was a mistake. Her mother is convinced he's suffering, and Victoria wishes there were some way she could take that pain away from him. Kyle feels bad for everything she's going through, and Victoria admits that he's actually a pretty good friend for an abbot. Then Claire and Holden walk in and immediately notice Victoria sitting with her ex. The greeting is awkward, to say the least. While Holden gets drinks, Claire admits she's surprised to see her mother with Kyle. They talk about Nick being in rehab and how badly Jack wants to help him. Once Claire and Holden head out to the patio, Victoria comments that Kyle and her daughter seem to be doing okay. Kyle says breakups are never easy, but eventually feelings fade. Kyle then asks Victoria what she thinks of Holden. She says he clearly cares about Claire and comes from a good family. Out on the patio, Holden admits that things felt strange inside. Claire changes the subject, so Holden fills her in on the latest battle over Chancellor. He doesn't fully understand everything that's happening, but he wants to support his sister. He also feels that he owes Lily and Cain, although he isn't exactly sure what he's getting himself into. As they discuss the fight for the company, Holden admits that he's exhausted by all the chaos, spying, and constant maneuvering. I was wondering if this might be the biggest clue about where his story is heading. Part of him simply wants a normal, stable job instead of being pulled into another corporate war. Claire suggests that he talk to Lily and reminds him that he can stay out of the fight if he wants. Then Billy walks by and runs into Victoria. He casually insists that everything is fine before rushing off, which naturally makes Victoria suspect that something is very wrong. Kyle advises her to stay out of the situation, but Holden doesn't get the same luxury. Billy finds him on the patio and announces that he's now in charge at Chancellor. He tells Holden that he would love to keep him on board, but there's a catch. Holden is going to have to choose a side. Billy makes his preference obvious. Siding with Lily, he warns, would be a mistake. Holden isn't happy about being put in that position, but Billy tries to sell him on the opportunity. He promises Holden a bright future if he works with him, while suggesting that choosing Lily could leave him with nothing. To me, Billy isn't simply offering Holden a job here. He's trying to force a loyalty test. And considering Holden already admitted that he's tired of the spying and chaos surrounding Chancellor, Billy may be underestimating just how badly Holden wants to escape this entire mess. I think the real question now is whether Holden chooses the side that offers him security or the people he actually feels indebted to. Because once he makes that choice, there may be no easy way back. An unexpected spark may be developing on The Young and the Restless, and I think Nate could be heading toward a romance that almost nobody saw coming. Dr. Stephanie Simmons returned to his life with the goal of helping him reconnect with his true passion. But now I'm wondering if her role in Nate's life could become much more personal and a lot more complicated. For years, Nate has been caught up in family business drama, corporate rivalries, and endless power moves. But eventually, he started to realize that the boardroom simply wasn't where his heart belonged. His hand injury forced him to step away from the operating room, yet his desire to heal never disappeared. That's where Stephanie made a major difference. She gave Nate the name of a top specialist who could potentially repair the damage to his hand. More importantly, she believed in his abilities when he needed that confidence the most. With Stephanie's encouragement, Nate finally found the courage to pursue his surgical comeback. And now I think he may be looking at her in a completely different way. Stephanie is an accomplished doctor who returned to Genoa City with her own professional ambitions. At first, she seemed to be stepping into Nate's life primarily as a mentor, especially given her history with his family. But the more time she spends supporting him, the harder it becomes to ignore the possibility that something deeper could be developing. Stephanie has gone above and beyond to help Nate through every stage of his return to medicine. She listens to his doubts, understands his fears, and continues building his confidence when he needs it most. To me, that kind of emotional connection could easily become the foundation for something much more personal. And this is Genoa City, after all. Romantic surprises are practically part of the landscape. I didn't realize Nate's medical comeback could potentially open the door to a new love story, but the more I think about it, the more the possibility makes sense. Working closely together towards such an important goal could create a bond neither of them expected. Of course, there are complications. Stephanie has a long history with Nate's family and was a close friend of his mother, Olivia. There is also a noticeable age difference between Nate and Stephanie, something viewers are likely to pay attention to if the show takes this relationship in a romantic direction. Still, I think Stephanie could be exactly what Nate needs, not only to rebuild his career, but perhaps to heal emotionally as well. Maybe their relationship will remain strictly professional. Maybe Stephanie will simply be the mentor who helps Nate find his way back to the operating room. But if the writers decide to push their connection further, I could see this turning into one of those unexpected Y and R romances that slowly catches everyone by surprise. For now, I think the biggest question is how Nate's feelings will evolve as Stephanie continues to stand beside him. What begins as professional guidance could eventually become something neither of them planned for, and in Genoa City, that is usually when the real drama begins. From my perspective, the next 3 weeks on The Young and the Restless, from August 17th through September 4th, look like they could bring plenty of hostility, complicated romances, and a few situations that may have serious consequences for the residents of Genoa City. I think the biggest power struggle will center on Cain Ashby, Lily Winters, and Billy Abbott. During the week of August 17th to 21st, Cain and Lily will reportedly look for reinforcements as Billy pushes ahead with his determination to claim the Chancellor throne. Cain may hope the Abbott family can somehow convince Billy to back down. Lily seems to have a similar idea, which could explain why she reaches out to Jack Abbott. I was wondering, though, whether Jack will really be enough to stop Billy once he has his mind set on taking control. To me, Victor Newman could actually be the person with the best chance of disrupting Billy's plans. Could Victor unexpectedly become an ally for Cain and Lily? That would certainly create an interesting power shift. Victor is expected to strike back at Billy and challenge the discoveries Billy has made concerning John Abbott's loan provision. If Victor manages to cast enough doubt on Billy's claims, Billy could become even more determined to retaliate against everyone standing in his way. And that could put Sally Spectra in a very uncomfortable position. I think Sally has plenty of reasons to be nervous if Billy's anger turns toward her or the people closest to him. Meanwhile, Nina Webster is set to return to Genoa City, giving her a chance to reconnect with familiar faces. Nina could catch up with Christine Blair Romalotti and Tracy Abbott, which should provide a lighter change of pace amid all the ongoing conflict. Moving into the week of August 24th to 28th, Nate Hastings could finally receive some encouraging news about his injured hand. He is expected to meet with the orthopedic surgeon connected to Stephanie Simmons, and the doctor may have a new procedure that could potentially restore Nate's full range of motion. If the surgery works, I think this could be a major turning point for Nate. Getting back to operating has clearly been important to him, so the possibility of regaining that ability could give him a fresh sense of purpose. Then there's Kyle Abbott and Victoria Newman. The two may continue finding excuses to spend time alone together, and I have to wonder how much longer they can keep pretending there isn't something happening between them. The tension could finally reach a breaking point, with passion potentially exploding between Kyle and Victoria. At the same time, Adam Newman will continue honoring his promise to look after Christian Newman while Nick Newman is away. I think Adam and Christian growing closer could create another complicated family dynamic, especially with Nikki Newman watching closely. Nikki is extremely protective of Nick's relationship with his son, so she may not be comfortable with Adam becoming too important in Christian's life. Even if Adam has the best intentions, I don't think Nikki will simply ignore what is happening. By the week of August 31st to September 4th, Nick could be feeling stronger after putting serious effort into his rehabilitation. That sounds like a positive development, but Sharon Newman may still have something to worry about. Sharon could become increasingly concerned about Marie Kirkland and the influence she may have on Nick. Sharon certainly won't want to see Nick suffer another relapse, so any growing bond between Nick and Marie could put her on edge. And then we have Matt Clark and Phyllis Summers, whose relationship could become one of the biggest wild cards. They are likely to continue facing opposition and plenty of challenges. But I'm particularly curious about Matt. Could his frustration eventually push him toward another dramatic personality shift? I think that's the real danger hanging over this storyline. Matt's positive transformation may be genuine, but there could still be darker pieces of his past waiting to resurface. If something unsettling happens, his old personality could come rushing back. That would put Phyllis in an extremely dangerous position. From my perspective, Phyllis may be taking a major gamble by falling for Matt. She could believe she is seeing a changed man, only to discover that the darker side of him never completely disappeared. Maybe Matt really has changed, and I could be wrong about where this is headed. But if the old Matt returns, Phyllis could find herself dealing with consequences she never expected. So as these 3 weeks unfold, I think Genoa City is heading toward a mix of power struggles, romantic temptation, family tension, recovery, and potentially dangerous revelations. And if Billy, Kyle, Victoria, Nick, Sharon, Matt, and Phyllis all follow the paths currently being teased, there could be plenty of drama waiting around every corner. The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest that Adam Newman could soon find himself facing a decision that has been years in the making, whether to finally tell Christian Newman that he is his biological father. I think this long-hidden secret could be getting dangerously close to exploding. For years, Christian has grown up believing that Nick Newman and Sage Newman were his biological parents, but longtime viewers know that the truth is far more complicated. When Christian was born in 2015, Dr. Sandy Anderson secretly switched the babies and allowed Nick and Sage to believe that their child had died. Christian was ultimately raised by Sharon Newman and Dylan McAvoy, while the truth about his biological connection to Adam remained buried. After Sage's death, Sharon eventually discovered that Christian wasn't her son, and the secret surrounding his true parentage began unraveling. Adam was presumed dead for a time, but when he returned to Genoa City in 2019, he initially fought for custody of Christian. However, Adam eventually accepted that Christian was better off staying with Nick. Now, years later, everything has changed. Christian is a teenager, he's driving, and he is missing Nick terribly while his father is in rehab. Nick recently asked Adam to step in and keep an eye on Christian, which could create the perfect opportunity for Adam and the teenager to become even closer. To me, that's where things get really interesting. As Nick works to overcome his pill addiction and rebuild his life, Adam may find himself spending more time with Christian. The more time they share, the harder it could become for Adam to keep such a massive secret. Could Adam actually tell Christian that he is his biological father? I wouldn't rule it out. Adam may eventually decide that Christian is old enough to know the truth, especially if Nick continues struggling with his recovery. If Nick were to fall off the wagon again, Adam could start questioning whether protecting the secret is really the best thing for Christian. There is also another possibility. Adam might not intentionally reveal anything at all. The truth could slip out during an emotional conversation, or Christian could overhear something that immediately raises questions about his past. And I think that could make the reveal even more powerful. Nick and Adam have come a long way. Their relationship is arguably closer than it has been in years, and Adam may not want to betray his brother. At the same time, he could begin feeling that Christian deserves to know where he really came from. Adam might also see this as his chance to make up for all the years he lost with his son. So, while I could be wrong, I think all the pieces are lining up for Christian's biggest family secret to finally come to light. Whether Adam tells him directly or Christian discovers the truth on his own, it feels like this decades-long secret may be running out of places to hide. The corporate war is heating up on the Young and the Restless, and I think Lily may have just revealed more about her true feelings than she intended. For a while, Lily acted as though she was above all the power struggles surrounding Chancellor. She talked about moving forward, protecting her peace, and putting the corporate battles behind her. But the moment Billy threatened to take the company away, that calm attitude disappeared. Lily fired Billy without hesitation and essentially declared war. To me, that reaction says a lot. If she were truly ready to walk away from Chancellor, I don't think she would have reacted so fiercely to the possibility of losing it. Billy, meanwhile, believes he has discovered a historical loophole that could give him control of the company. His claim that an old, unpaid loan makes Chancellor rightfully his has turned what might have been a business dispute into an all-out battle. And honestly, Billy's obsession with taking over Chancellor is becoming impossible to ignore. He seems willing to risk almost everything to get what he wants. I was wondering whether he has even considered what this fight could cost him personally, especially when it comes to his already fragile romance with Sally and the future of their new baby. But Billy's determination may have pushed Lily into showing her own hand. Part of Lily's anger is certainly about protecting Catherine Chancellor's legacy. I think she genuinely believes Billy could damage everything Catherine built. She also has reasons to stand behind Cain as he works through his complicated plans for the company's future. Still, I'm not convinced those are the only reasons Lily is fighting so hard. Behind all those explanations, Chancellor still seems incredibly important to her. Perhaps Lily has spent so much time convincing herself that she is ready to move on that she didn't realize how deeply attached she remains to the company. Watching Billy try to take it away may have triggered something much more personal. Lily is a fighter at heart, and I think the idea of an abbot taking control of Chancellor could be more than she is willing to tolerate. She may insist that this is about protecting Catherine's legacy, Cain's plans, or the company's future, but her actions suggest there is another truth underneath it all. Maybe Lily never truly wanted to let Chancellor go. And if I'm right, this corporate war could become much more personal than either Lily or Billy expected. The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest Matt Clark may be ready to jump in and help Phyllis Summers rebuild Arabesque. Phyllis certainly seems confident that the company is headed for success, but I think that success could also make Arabesque a much bigger target. Victor Newman has already made it clear that he isn't happy about Matt breaking the rules he put in place. Since Phyllis has now joined forces with Matt, she's naturally putting herself on the wrong side of Victor too. So, if trouble starts brewing around Arabesque, I think Phyllis and Matt could immediately assume Victor is behind it. But what if they're wrong? To me, Cain Ashby is starting to look like a much more interesting possibility. Cain tried to play it cool when Phyllis bragged about Victor handing Arabesque over to her, but I didn't get the impression that he was genuinely happy about the situation. Arabesque used to belong to Cain after all, so I could easily see those old feelings coming back. If Phyllis, Matt, and Lauren Fenmore Baldwin manage to rebuild Arabesque faster than expected, Cain may start looking at the company as something worth taking back. He could even begin plotting another takeover behind the scenes. Of course, Cain is currently focused on running Chancellor Industries. However, that situation may not remain stable for long. Billy Abbott's suspicions and research could eventually prove that the Abbotts have a legitimate claim to Chancellor, which would leave Cain scrambling for his next major move. Cain could always help Lily Winters with Winters if his position at Chancellor falls apart. but I'm not convinced that would be enough for him. I was wondering if Cain might instead decide that Arabesque is the perfect way to regain some of the power he's about to lose. If he could take control of the company again, he might eventually fold it into Winter's and strengthen Lily's business empire at the same time. And there's another reason this theory could work. Cain wouldn't necessarily have to reveal himself right away. He could allow Phyllis and Matt to believe Victor is attacking them, while secretly making moves of his own. That would give Cain the element of surprise and keep everyone looking in the wrong direction. I may be wrong, but I think that could make for a much more interesting twist. Phyllis may spend all her energy preparing for Victor, only to discover that the real threat has been Cain Ashby all along. If Arabesque suddenly becomes a success, Cain might decide he doesn't want to watch from the sidelines. He may want his old company back, and this time, he could be willing to play a much more dangerous game to get it.